Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of NottsPharmCast, our podcast from Community Pharmacy Nottinghamshire. Today we are looking at how to protect your income.
Contractors will be aware of the launch of the CPCF and PQS. As you might imagine, there are many different elements to both and lots of key information that contractors really need to know. But with limited time in your schedule, how do you get to read all the information, let alone understand it? Well, that's why we're here with NottsPharmCast with this podcast, latest edition. After speaking with various contractors over the last few weeks, we're more than aware that there are lots of areas that they're unsure about or simply not aware of. And that's what we want to change, because if you don't get this right, you will lose out and you will lose income. This is why we felt compelled to share our learnings in a bite-sized podcast to cover everything that you need to know right now. Updates will follow in due course, but for now, Nick and Mike will be chatting about what you need to do to protect your income. Over to Nick and Mike.
Thanks, Kirsten. As contractors may well know, the payment process and fees for NMS is changing. Well, it's changed already. We're the 3rd of June when we're recording this, and 1st of April we got the changes to NMS. So 2 payments of £14 now, one for initiation and one for follow-up. But the IT infrastructure hasn't fully caught up with that yet. So there's a bit of a fudge factor, for want of a better word, to make your claim at the moment and add your figures into NYS. So when you're claiming, you need to currently put both in. So your numbers may appear to be double what they were before. Now this is an interim stage. At some point, the IT infrastructure will be updated so that you can record the separate initiation and separate follow-up claims. But the fundamental service specification criteria stays the same, in that you can't claim until you've completed the service. So if you start an initiation in June, but you don't do the follow-up until July, then that you can't claim for that NMS until July, but you have currently 2 claims, 2 fees of £14 to claim for on your NYS. That sounds really complicated. It isn't straightforward, especially in this interim stage. So you're well advised to check the detail on the CPE website. Just go to Advanced Services, NMS, scroll down a little bit, and there's a great little paragraph there that shows you a really good example to make sure that you're not losing out. And it's critical that you do this, because you could be underclaiming by half. Don't forget as well, though, you've still got your NMS caps. Your NMS caps still apply. That's a factor of your prescription volume. So again, scroll down a bit further on that page and you will see the NMS caps, how that applies to your pharmacy, and you can work it through from there.
That's extremely helpful, Nick. Yeah. Anything you'd like to add to that, Mike?
Yes, I just think it's worthwhile just reviewing your NMS process in terms of how you track the number of NMS you're doing in a month, so that you know what your claim should be and you know where you stand each month. I think that would be useful.
That makes a heck of a lot of sense, Mike. Yeah. Agreed.
I think moving on then to PQS, we've one of the things that is really important for everybody to note is the gateway policy. So again, just talking, as Nick said, looking at the CPE website is really important. It has all the checklists on there. But pharmacy owners must have signed up to deliver the Pharmacy First service and the Pharmacy Contraception service by the end of the 31st of August. and remain registered for both those services until the end of the scheme, i.e. 31st of March 2026. The reason that is so critical is if you don't meet the gateway criteria, as in previous years, then you will not be able to claim for any of the PQS payments.
To add on to that, I think it's if contractors need to plan and anticipate any staff changes that they've got coming in, so that new staff can hit the ground running with this. If they're going to continue with PQS, they need to make sure there is no gap in service delivery. So if they've got any staff changes, they need to get them staff up to speed very, very quickly, so that they don't have to declare a gap in service provision. Because if they've got a gap in service provision and they have to report that they can't provide a particular service for a period of time, then re-registering or deregistering and then re-registering takes a while to do that, and that period of time will mean they don't meet gateway criteria for PQS. So potentially all the work that they've done on PQS throughout the year get to February next year, and a key member of staff leaves or goes on maternity leave or whatever, and they can't provide the service, they could then lose out on all their PQS payments that they've worked so hard for. So staff planning is crucial to making sure you meet PQS. It's a team effort. It's not all about what you do as a business owner. It's about how you make best use of your team overall.
It's a really good point, Nick. Yeah.
Yeah. Shall we? Let's move on to pharmacy first, because there's a number of pitfalls here that we genuinely wanted to chat about. I guess the first one is the contraception service and the blood pressure service will be joining Pharmacy First from the 1st of October. It's worth pointing out to everybody that to make sure that you have signed up for the contraception service by this month, otherwise you'll lose your access to the threshold payment. And therefore you won't get the threshold payment even though you hit the number of consultations. So
exactly, Mike. Yeah.
That's the first point. The second point is, by doing that, by actually getting the training done now, you will then be able to receive the £900 startup fees that have been in place since the beginning of the service. We genuinely have no idea whether that £900 will be there once October comes. But I would work on the premise that it won't be.
It won't be, no.
And I guess the other point to make about the contraception service in particular is that the EHC service will become a national service from October the 1st, depending on whether the IT infrastructure is in place. And it's definitely worth doing the training on the PQS service so that you attract the PQS remuneration for doing that part of the training as well.
Exactly. Okay. Nick, anything to add there to what Mike's just explained?
Yeah, some really, really good points there, Mike. And again, it is quite complicated, and you do need to spend and invest a bit of time as contractors getting your head around this. It's well worth taking a day out from the business or a half day out from the business just to read up on some of this, so that you make sure that you don't fall foul of some of the caveats. And it can be simple things thinking through. For example, let's use ambulatory blood pressure monitoring. From October, you've got to do at least one ambulatory blood pressure monitoring as part of the bundling to get your threshold payments. Hopefully that'll be your £1,000 threshold payment. It might be 500 if you don't get all of the Pharmacy First activity in. But if you miss out on that ambulatory blood pressure, that means that you lose £1,000. So, and that could be as simple as you get to the last week of the month, your ambulatory blood pressure meter is out on loan to a patient and it doesn't get returned, or it gets broken, or it needs recalibrating. Gets brought back in, you've got 5 working days left to get another ambulatory in. You might not be able to get your machine active in that time frame. Don't wait till the last week of the month, but actually consider, I know it's a huge expense, and just over £1,000 for a second ambulatory blood pressure monitor. But if that's the difference between reaching threshold and not reaching threshold, it pays for itself in 1 month to have a second ambulatory blood pressure monitor available for you. And you know what? If you really crack on with this service, I'm pretty sure most contractors can get on with 2 or 3 ambulatory blood pressure monitorings a week, and you'll soon get the cost of that covered in service activity, let alone your threshold payments as you go forward.
Yeah, exactly that, Nick.
Another bit I was going to say on the Pharmacy First is about the PGDs and Gateway. Not all of the IT systems are fully aligned, so the software system you might be using on your clinical system might not be fully aligned to the PGDs, especially exclusion criteria. So it should align to the pathway and the gateways. We understand they're likely to change at some point during this current financial year. Again, IT systems may have a lag in updating on there. So make sure that you know the clinical pathways and you know the PGDs, and don't rely on your IT system unless you will have assurance from your provider that your IT system is completely aligned with those exceptions and exclusions on gateways and PGDs. We know that there have been a few cases where prescription-only medication has been supplied under a PGD that is not quite in alignment with the PGD because the software system hasn't flagged up that it's part of an exclusion.
Can you're absolutely right, Nick. Some really good points again. And just to build on that, the other issue there is where contractors can lose money is if the PGDs aren't followed, then NHS-BSA will withhold payment, and then it's down to the contractor to prove they should be paid that money. But what a waste of time that is, and it's so much better to get it right first time.
Absolutely, Mike.
Absolutely, Mike.
Yeah.
And I've just been reading earlier today about the appeals decisions, which links into this. 19 pharmacy quality payment decisions with appeals for last month around overpayments or underpayments. So exactly, and most of those appeals are being refused because it's to do with exactly as you say there, the evidence isn't there available from the IT system to prove compliance with the service specification. So you do need to make sure that you're not putting yourself at risk of losing money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure how many times we've said this, Nick, but actually, if it's not written down, it never happened.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's why we say as well, use email whenever you're raising a query, wherever you can, rather than phone call, because you copy yourself in on that email, then you've got your evidence trail that you raised a query at a specific time. And you've also got a flag to chase it then if you don't get a response from it. And if you persist in not getting a response, then copy the LPC in. If you need our help to escalate, we can do that. But if it's just as part of your audit process, then that will help as well. No problem in copying us in at the info@email address.
Yeah,
good point. And I guess the last thing for me is just to talk about the Pharmacy First caps. So I'm sure everybody will know that the Pharmacy First caps were changed, and they reduced quite significantly from April the 1st. That will be causing some confusion, and we would urge you, those that are listening, to check what your new Pharmacy First caps are. If you have any queries about that, then please get in touch, and we're more than happy to talk that through with you. But I would suggest that you just make sure that you're looking at the question and answers on the CPE website as well, because a lot of the questions will be answered there on how to deal with that.
Well, you're right there, Mike. It's the link to that is under the Pharmacy First Service specification, and then under the FAQs, frequently asked questions, some really good information about the cap, how you find out what your cap is, and how you might influence your cap being changed. Caps are reviewed monthly now. It used to be quarterly, but it's now monthly. So if you are in a band 1 or 2, then you can get yourself your pharmacy moved up to 6 ultimately. But if you exceed your cap for a clinical pathway, you won't then get paid for the service activity. You still get paid for any supply you've made, but you won't get your £17 service activity fee. It is only clinical pathways, so minor illness and urgent supplies are not counted in the caps.
Okay. Some extremely valuable insight and knowledge sharing there, Nick and Mike. Thank you. Really appreciate that. And some fantastic examples of potentially those pitfalls that you talked about, that where contractors, we really don't want you to fall into these and lose income and lots of changes that are coming through, and we really want you to be aware of them. And I think that the Nick and Mike have flagged a lot of those today. And as both of them have said, if you've got any queries, please feel free to drop us an email to info@address, which we'll put on the bottom of this podcast. And also feel free to follow us on LinkedIn and on Facebook. We regularly put posts on there. We've also got our e-newsletter, which comes out monthly, that the lovely Ali prepares for us. We have of course, CPN, Community Pharmacy Nottinghamshire website, and as both gents have alluded to today, the CPE website is a font of all knowledge, shall we say. There's everything that you could possibly wish for on there, I think, if you have time to look. But we're here for you, so please shout up if you need any help with anything that we've talked about today. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, Nick. Thanks,
Kirsten.
Mike.
Thanks, Kirsten. Thanks, Mike.